Hi, I'm Louise Aubery, your host, and I'm glad to present you this new episode of the Lights on Women's Worth podcast by L'Oréal Paris. Enjoy! Hello, Viola.
Hello.
I'm glad to welcome you on the Lights on Women's Worth podcast.
Thank you.
I first wanted to ask you, do you remember the first time you were under the spotlights?
I would have to say During Doubt, a movie that I did with Meryl Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman and Amy Adams. It was based on John Patrick Shanley's play. That was the first time that I was in the whole sort of hoopla of Hollywood, of the parties, of the Oscar events and Golden Globes and Screen Actors Guild and flying overseas to the BAFTAs and doing all of that. I was sort of thrust into this other celebrity world. Whereas before that time, I was a journeyman actor working in New York and working around the United States in regional theater. And so it was a big shift for me.
Did you ever feel the lights on you when you were a child?
No.
Was it comfortable to get the lights when you grew up?
Well, here's the thing. I did feel like the lights were on me as a child, but not in a good way.
Oh, why is that?
Sometimes the lights can be on you in a negative way, that you're considered a troublemaker, that you're sort of stigmatized with that. The lights being on me now as a celebrity is different.
Yeah.
People see me as the spokesperson for everything. I mean, I literally was just given an offer to recruit women for the nunnery. They wanted me to recruit women to go into the nunnery, or someone who wanted me to help with a trash campaign, a politician in Rhode Island. So people see me as the spokesperson for poverty and women issues, and of course, any issues of people of color. And so when the lights are on you like that, that's when it becomes nerve-wracking, because you can only be who you are, right? And I am happy to be a spokesperson for certain things that I know about, but I can't recruit women for the nunnery. I don't know how to do that. And I don't know how to help with a trash campaign. But certainly when the lights are on you, you feel exposed and you feel pressure. And unless you have felt pressure and exposed on this level, you cannot speak about it.
How do you deal with that pressure?
I think the only way to deal with it is by not dealing with it. It's what they say, what other people think of you is none of your business. That's how I feel. Like what other people think of me is none of my business. Now there's other lights, like lights on women's worth and young filmmakers.
Yeah. That's
something entirely different. They're at the point in their lives where they're just busting through and they need recognition. Without recognition, it's very difficult to have a career in Hollywood, because you can't call up Steven Spielberg if you haven't done anything. You're not going to get him on the phone. You're not going to get Christopher Nolan. You're not going to get, Patty Jenkins. You're not going to get anyone on the phone. You're not going to get Warner Brothers or Paramount or Universal. So you have to bust out. It's your introduction to the business and to the world. But the lights that have been placed on me is you have the pressure.
How did it feel becoming a L'Oréal Paris ambassador at 54?
Awesome. Awesome.
What did
and
you
know why? The only reason why it felt awesome is because I did not see it as Viola being an ambassador. I saw me as representing all Black women, and especially dark-skinned Black women. That really pleased young Viola who always felt ugly. And the reason why she did is because every single person told me. Anyone who had the opportunity to tell me that I was ugly and that I was always going to stay ugly, they took that opportunity. It introduced me to the cruelty, of the world. But looking back on it, it also introduced me to my legacy.
What would you tell this little Viola who feels like she's not worth it?
To not listen to that. To tell her that she is. That I don't care. I don't care if you're a bedwetter. I don't care if you don't know how to do your hair. I don't care if you're wearing clothes from the local thrift store that cost 50 cents. I don't care if you don't look like Shirley Temple. You're still worth it. I don't care if you made the biggest mistake in your life, that you talked in class or you got a pink slip or you didn't do well in a test, you're still worth it. That's how life works. It just is. You are born worthy. You are born with that sort of seed, DNA seed that tells you that you can transform your life.
Have you always felt worthy?
No, not at all.
How did
and
you
know why it showed?
that?
It showed in my relationships, in my friendships, and my relationship with men. It absolutely showed the sort of treatment that I allowed in my life, how I made myself small all the time. Absolutely. And how I overcame that is I worked on myself. I went into therapy. I needed to know what was getting in the way of self-love, and I think that there is a general notion that you literally, there's a payment to value. Like you have to look pretty, or you have to have the right zip code, or the right boyfriend, or you have to speak in a certain way. And I realized that the only thing that was standing in the way of self-love is forgiveness.
Why did you need to forgive yourself?
You have to forgive yourself for not being perfect. Perfection is not attainable, that we are sort of perfectly imperfect. And the sooner you make peace with that is the sooner that you can experience joy in your life. And I started doing that work at 28 and 29. And it's a long journey.
It is.
Because then you're thrust into a business that is about stunning on the red carpet.
Yeah.
And the thing that I always remind myself of is, it's like the great Alan Arkin said, he's a wonderful actor. He said, all these actors who are always coming to me with advice about acting, he said, I can give you a lot of advice about acting, but I can't give you any advice about being a famous actor. So fame and acting are two completely different things, totally different. The moment that Meryl Streep won her Oscar nomination for The Devil Wears Prada, Anne Hathaway walked into Miranda's room in that hotel and she had no makeup on. It's a scene where she tells Anne Hathaway that I'm getting a divorce and I know it's going to be public very soon and I don't know how it's going to affect my daughters and I can't get over the failure of that. And she's just breaking down this sort of titan, this bastion of power, and all of a sudden becomes very, very vulnerable and no makeup on. That is what got her the Oscar nomination. Because really what we're looking for in our lives is just truth. That's what it is.
We are celebrating the Lights on Women's Worth Award today, actually. And L'Oréal Paris created that award to, highlight the presence of women, both on screen and behind the camera. Has it been hard for you to be taken seriously in the movie industry?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I think that if you ask anyone that question, they probably would say that, only because it's a very, 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 very difficult profession. I think that people feel like if you're beautiful and you're talented, then you're going to get in. They don't understand how many actors are beautiful, are talented, who have great agents, who never, ever even get a job. It's a 95% unemployment rate. It is the most deprived business probably in the world. So yeah, a lot of people don't take you seriously. But the thing about it is you just have to keep doing what you're doing. And I feel like when I look back on myself and how I started acting, one thing that I will give myself credit for is I was always myself. When I walked in the room, I could be 165, 170 pounds. I still went for it with the audition. If it was a love interest role, I just slapped on the lipstick, my eyelashes, and I don't care if you didn't think I was beautiful. I'm going to play this role as if I'm the most beautiful woman in the world. And even if I don't get the role, I'm going to come back tomorrow at a different audition and I'm going to give it everything that I have that is in me to give in my way. I was never trying to be like anyone else. And when you do that, the irony is somebody will see you and you only need one person to see you. And then it creates a domino effect. And that one person for me was Steven Soderbergh.
Sisterhood is a value that is very dear to L'Oréal Paris, and I know to you too. Was there a moment in your life, a tough moment, when a woman helped you, get through it?
Lots of times. Getting through it is a journey. Mm-hmm. You realize that. You literally, it's like someone says, it's like you're on a leaf and that leaf takes you to one little spot and you stay there for a while. And then someone comes up and they put you on another leaf and you go through another spot. And that's what takes you across the pond of fear and doubt. Are these little mentors along the way. And for me, it was teachers, my sisters, Dolores, Diane, Anita, Danielle, their love, their support. It was sometimes a director, a female director. Sometimes it was another actor. And there are some people that I can't even remember right now, but I know that they threw me a rope and they got me through one little really hard spot until the next woman came along and brought me to another spot. And that's why connection is so important. And sometimes you don't always have that, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's very destructive.
I have a little surprise for you. We have 3 envelopes. And
oh my goodness.
Each of these envelopes holds a memory from your career. And you can pick one of them, only one. Which one do you choose?
Okay, this one.
Go ahead. You can open it for us.
Oh, this is perfect. This is perfection.
Oh, so you chose that
Finding
one.
Me.
What did it mean for you to write this book?
It was part of my journey in transforming my life, was to reconcile my past. The only way I was going to reconcile it is by visiting it. That's what that book meant for me. Was a sort of blast a hole through my memories or whatever and somehow piggyback to little Viola, who I left in Central Falls. I left her there. I didn't see any connection between young Viola and 54-year-old Viola until I realized that she was a key to my healing. That sometimes you have to look back at who you were, and that person gives you courage, because what little Viola had was little Viola was a survivor. Mm-hmm. And she was all those things. She was a bedwetter. She was really angry. She was all of those things. But guess what? She wanted to live. She knew that there was something out there that was calling her, beckoning her. And I always felt like she needed healing. And I always, until someone said, can you allow her to look at the 54, 55-year-old she gets to become and allow her to squeal? And that released my joy. I thought it was interesting that I finally got to the end of the book and I was like, I'm going to give someone a really great anecdote about life. It's going to be a great anecdote. It's going to be. And all it was just self-acceptance. That's it. There's no big explosion. There's none of that. There's just acceptance. It's like that saying, just when the caterpillar thought it was dying, it became a butterfly. And I think that sort of describes my life, I allowed myself to be a caterpillar for a long time. And then finally, at some point, I sort of reconciled the fact that my life is exactly what it is, and it's beautiful.
That's so powerful. Mm-hmm. And finally, as we are on the Lights on Women's Worth podcast, what do you want to shed the light on?
The biggest thing I could say is we can't do life alone. I think that we're in this lone wolf period. They say that that's what's motivating everything is loneliness. It's what's motivating mental illness. It's what's motivating crime. It's what's motivating just a general lack of empathy that there is out there. That without other women, we talk about the deficit women filmmakers have, women in every way have, but we don't acknowledge enough the power that we have to kill that. And Lights on Women is about that L'Oreal took it in their own hands as a beauty brand to spotlight these filmmakers, because if they don't have a spotlight, they do not exist. So we are speaking them into existence. That's the power of connection, the power of protecting each other's flames. That's what I call it.
The power of representation as well.
Yes, absolutely. The power of representation. But the power of being able to help, to use whatever tool you have, not just for self-promotion, but to piggyback and lift someone else up. I think it was Angela Davis, is what you should have to do with your freedom is to free somebody else. That's what you do with your freedom. Otherwise, it's sort of nothing, right? If someone didn't put a spotlight on me, I don't know where I would be. I really don't. Yeah.
Thank you, Viola. Thank you so much for all of your work.
Thank you.